Okay, so good afternoon, class. So our topic for today is the week 12 in your LMS, which is the real estate valuation. So we are going to discuss here about the evaluation of the real estate towards the computation on how those values of the real estate vary and in order to set the prices. Okay, so our learning objectives here is to define what is the real estate valuation and to explain the approaches of the real estate valuation. Okay, so what is the real estate valuation? So the real estate valuation, this is a formal report, okay, by an accredited valuer or appraiser or assessor in order to report or to present the formal when it comes to the formal computation on the values of the real properties. Because this report or the real estate valuation is used by the mortgage lenders such as the banks or other financial institutions on in which for whatever the value of the properties that will be suitable for the loan, okay, for security for the loan, and also to cover up the mortgage, okay, the mortgage if there is a for sale. Okay, so part of the real estate valuation, it is a more detailed inspection of the property, okay, in order to appraise and also to assess about the value of the property. So part of the detailed inspection when it comes to the valuation of the property, not only the land and exterior, but also the assets that attach to or affix to the infrastructures and the land. What are those? The description of the property, including the number of bedrooms and land size, the risk rate ratings for the things like environmental risk, as well as the market risk, and the condition of the property. So condition, it talks about the durability or the durability and the capacity or the capability of the property to use by the consumers. Even the comparable sales, of course, is also part of the detailed inspection for the real estate valuation, and any issues uncovered in the inspection of the property or other searches conducted. Please take note that the actual valuation of the property is based on the recent sales for the past 6 months of similar properties in the same suburb or the same value or the physical aspect of the properties. Okay, this is the actual valuation. You say actual valuation, in order to compute for the value of the property will be given, it will be based on the recent sales or the current sales for the past 6 months. Again, for the market value is determined by looking and comparing the differences of the actual properties for the past 6 months. Okay, so what is the real estate appraisal? So we already tackled in the previous session. This appraisal is about the measurement of estimating and assumption of the values of the property. And because the value of the property, this will be the price ceiling of the property to sell by setting the maximum price, but the value can be also set. The value can also determines the selling price, whether to set on the ceiling or the price floor. Excuse me. And this appraisal, this is an informal valuation by the real estate agent, because this is not a legal binding document that can be put on the real estate valuation, but it will help the appraisal as a guide on how to set the prices on the properties that we sell. Okay. So what are the methods of real estate valuation? So we have the following methods or approaches to compute and to measure the valuation or the measurement of the computing the values of the real estate. First method is the comparable sales approach. This is a relative valuation method because in the comparable sales method, we need to compute or to find out the price multiples for different stocks, like the price to earnings ratio and the price to book ratio. This is also in comparable sales approach to identify the past transaction of comparable properties, and this past transaction will be used as a benchmark to determine the value of the property. So the basis is the past transactions. So the steps is to identify the actual market transactions in the recent past to compare the properties from the past up to present. The comparable transactions must be similar in terms of location, property size, the property nature, even on the size of the tenant, and the duration of the lease term. And then finding the price multiple for the properties based on the features of the property that derives on the property value. That's also involved dividing the property value to its covered area and number of apartments. So the multiples derived from comparable transactions, these are multiplied with the same feature of the property to arrive at a value estimate, and the value per square feet must be multiplied by the property area and the square feet to find value. Okay, so the next approach, aside from the comparable sales, is the income approach. This is the absolute valuation method. Say absolute, for what the basis of this price is the income, or this is the say absolute. It's only for whatever the result of the computation, that will be the price to be set or conformity. So we have the methods of to apply the income approach. The direct capitalization method, which the values of a property as a perpetuity. Okay. So how do we compute, or the formula to compute for the direct capitalization approach? Okay, so we have the formula to compute for the income approach, which is B is equals to NOI divided by C minus G, where the NOI is the net operating income, C is the capitalization rate, and G is the annual growth rate. And the other one is the discounted cash flow method as part of the income approach. So in the discounted cash flow method, it can forecast the net operating income for the foreseeable future by individually forecasting the revenue and expense in line items to find the reversion value. We say reversion, the present value of the property. Okay, at the end of the period. That's why we call it as discounted cash flow. Just like in the valuation time value of money, if we talk about discounted, we are using the we are forecasting the value in the future, but we are computing the value at present. Okay, so as in order to identify what particular price that can be set. So what is the formula for the discounted cash flow approach? It's just the same in the time value of money, the net present value. So the initial value, it equals to the net operating income on the first, second, third year, so on and so forth, in order to arrive the discounted cash flow. Where the NOI is the net operating income for the first, second, and the periods, and the RV is the reversion value or the terminal value, and R is the required rate of return. So the reversion value, it can be estimated either multiple approach or capital direct capitalization approach. So those are the two methods of the income approach as the valuation of the real estate. Then the third approach is the cost approach. The cost approach, this is the values of property as replacement cost. Okay, that the cost will be incurred in reconstructing the property. The value of the property under this approach is equal to the market value of the land on which it is constructed plus the cost of the construction of similar property at the current prices. So look at these examples. Okay, so let us do the examples of those approaches. The comparable, the income, and the cost approach. Okay, let's illustrate the example of those approaches of the real estate valuation. So first, let's have the following data on the comparable sales approach. Okay, this is the simplest method to find the comparable property. So the following table shows the comparable sales approach that can be applied to the property Y. So we have here the properties, property A, B, C, because the basis of the comparable sales approach is the past, is based on the current sales for the past 6 months. So the value of the property A is 40 million. The value of the property B is 70 million. And the value, the value of the property C is 55 million. So we have the square feet. The square feet of the property is 25,000 for property A, property B is 70,000, and property C 60,000. And the units of those property that available for sale is 30 units for property A, 60 units on property B, and 42 units on property C. And then we can get the of course we have to get the average. So to get the average, let us compute for the value per square feet. So to get for the value per square feet, the value divided by the square feet. So in property A, 40 million divided by 25,000, that's 1,600,000 feet. The value per square feet of the property. And for property B, 70 million divided by 70,000, that's 1,000 feet. Okay, the value of the square feet of property B. For property C, 55 million divided by 60,000, so the value per square feet is 970. So if you get the average of this is 1,172. And then the value per unit, so we have to get the value per unit, so 40 million divided by 30, that's 133.33, and 70 million divided by 60, so value per unit, that's 1,166. And for the property C, 55 million divided by 42 units, that's 1,309,524. So if you get the average, it's 1,269,841. So how do we get the property Y area square feet? So the value per square feet, of course, is 50,000, the given data. So the proper units of Y, okay, how many the value property units of Y is 50. So therefore, the property value of Y is 58,611, 58,611,111, and the value per unit is 492,063. Okay. So these are if you see the comparable sales approach on the properties. Okay, so on the property Y, we have to the value per unit. Okay. Excuse me. So this is the comparable sales approach. So if we apply, so on these things, of course, excuse me. So if you apply on this, of course, the property, as we compare the approach for the value, property C is the, what you call this, the best property which we can compare because of the units, not only the units, but the value per square feet, okay, that can be sold. Even the units is only 42. The quantity, the volume. Next, on the direct capitalization approach. Okay, so for the purpose of direct capitalization method, we need to first work out of the net operating income in year 1. So we have the property Y, and we have the following capitalizations. Okay. And then given a cap rate of 10% determined as the average ratio of the net operating income to property value of the comparable properties and a growth rate of 5%. So the value of the property under direct capitalization approach works out to the capitalization of 67.532 million. So that's the NOI, the 3,376,000. So this is how we compute the direct comparison. So 3 million 376,600 divided by the cap rate, 10%, and the growth rate of 5% based on the formula that we discussed earlier. So the direct capitalization is $67,000 or $67,532,000. And for the discounted cash flow, so we have the following values or financial statement or the income statement of the developers from year 1 up to year 5. Okay. Okay, so let us compute for the discounted cash flow. So we need the following formula. So of course, the net operating income in year 5. Okay, so what's the net operating income in year 5? So 4,428,889 times 1 plus 5%. Okay, because of the given rate. And then, and then 11% minus 5%. So the discounted cash flow is 77,505,550. And for the cost approach, so it equals the market value of the land plus the construction cost of the building in today's currency. So the market value of the land is 30 million and the current value of construction cost can be determined by adjusting the historical cost for inflation. So this is the formula based on the given data. So 30 million times 20 million times 1 plus 0.2.5% per square. Okay, based on the example. So the cost approach, the cost value is 55.60 million. So these are the approaches, okay, when it comes to the real estate valuation. So it doesn't mean that we have those approaches. It will be depending on what we need. Okay, it doesn't mean that this is 100% accurate, but it will help the appraisers and the evaluators to make a formal report on the valuation or computation of the values of the real property so we can set the contract for selling price.